Hello, I'm Mike Baker from Compass, Manhattan. And what I really wanted to discuss today was the co-op and condo tax abatements, which um, everybody in New York City basically qualifies for if your apartment is your primary residence. And the tax abatement is essentially the way of the city and state giving you the opportunity, because co-ops and condos are taxed so differently than houses and 1 to 4 family units. It gives you the opportunity to lower your taxes or reduce your taxes on an annual basis. So just a little background is I had a client that basically closed last July 2020. They were promised a tax abatement, or they were under the impression that they got a tax abatement for the entirety of the year. And that tax abatement, that reduction in taxes, gave them about $500 to $600 a month back if they did qualify for basically for the tax reduction. The problem, and they're finding this out now as they ask for it and ask with the building, is that they would have needed to have lived in their apartment on or before January 5th of 2020 to qualify for all of 2020's reduction in taxes. So because they closed in the summer of last year, they're not going to qualify. But what they will qualify for, because they have lived in it now, is they will qualify for the tax abatement that they should get in 2022. So I think, and most of the time, the reduction in taxes and like mortgage and maintenance payments or maintenance payments factors in that tax abatement to that number, when in fact it's not exactly cut and dry if you'll qualify for the abatement. So just assume, if you are looking at the apartment, that they're going to factor that in, or your maintenance and taxes might be a little bit higher than what you expected until you qualify for the abatement the following year, which is a little tough. So what they'll miss out on is that, like August, September, October, November, because they closed in July, they'll miss out on those 6-7 months or 6 months, but they should receive an abatement for 2021 in Q1 of 2022, because they were already living in the apartment. So I'm just really understanding this myself. It's not something that I normally check into. But obviously it came across my desk today, and we're now figuring all of that stuff out. I would check with your attorney, especially every time you go through a closing or you're going through that process, to make sure to figure out what your payment is without that abatement. But you need to have lived in your apartment on or before, again, January 5th. And then your management company needs to essentially qualify you and fill out your paperwork and submit your paperwork by the middle of February for that tax year. So this year, 2021, your management company, if you're new to the building, will have to have filed your paperwork by February 15th. And you also need to notify your management company that this is your primary residence. If this is a secondary residence or a pied-à-terre, you do not qualify for the abatement. It's not going to reduce your taxes any. But if it's your primary residence and you're in the building by January 1st to be safe, then you will qualify for the entire year. And again, this is a pretty significant amount of money for most people. No matter what dollar amount you make, it's nice to get the money back. So that's it. Condo co-op tax abatement. It's very different than other tax abatements that are given out to new development buildings, which are starting to expire. You typically don't find those unless you're in Brooklyn at this point, that I've seen. So that's kind of what you have to factor in. As far as the new development tax abatements, those can last for years. And over time, that reduction in taxes starts to go away. It could be from 7 to 10 years in New York City. And by the time you get to the end of that tax abatement, your taxes are going to be considerably higher than when you started. Obviously, if you got in very early in the process, if you're buying 7 years into the abatement, your taxes are much closer to what the final product will be. But going backwards 10 years, if it's a 10-year abatement, you're getting a pretty sweet deal. So it's worth looking into. It's not anything to be afraid of, and it's also very nice because you can get holding and taxes. Your holding costs can be very, very low relative, again, to the rest of the neighborhood, and also your final number that's, again, 7 to 10 years out. So that's it. If you have questions, talk to me. Adios.